le monde. Bonjour, merci tout le monde. Je vais commencer avec une recognition que nous sommes sur la terre régionale des peuples Algonquins and Anishinaabe. We're on the traditional territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe people, and we express our gratitude for their generosity and patience. Miigwech. Mon nom, c'est Elizabeth May, je suis la chef de Parti vert du Canada, et aujourd'hui, c'est la fin d'une semaine extraordinaire pour nous. Of course, I planned this when I thought January 27th was the day Parliament would be resuming. What a good time to be sure that we'd finalized our election platform by having an in-person retreat with the shadow cabinet that I've been working with for years. And a lot of people, this is our first time in person since before COVID. So for a lot of people, it's the first time they met with each other. In order of what we're going to do today, I also want to stop and pause to recognize that this is the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz, International Holocaust Remembrance Day. And for all those who still grieve the Shoah, awareness of monstrous genocide should not be forgotten. And when we say never again, we really should mean it. Oh, so January 27th, the day Parliament was supposed to resume, with lots of bills, lots of work to do. We're going to reflect on the work that didn't get done, and Mike Morrice, MP for Kitchener Centre, will present that part of our reflections. But first, I want to introduce someone you don't know at all. She's the nominated candidate for the Green Party of Canada in North Island, Powell River, and she was nominated by the group to sort of be our spokesperson for how the weekend went and what it was like to all be together. Jessica Wag is a lawyer in Comox, BC. Jessica.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Good morning, everyone. We are weeks away from the most important election in our nation's history, and our future is on the line. So over the weekend, Green Shadow Cabinet members met from all over the country to identify solutions to the key problems facing Canadians: housing, affordability, the threat of climate change, and our relationship with our southern neighbours. And we really look forward to sharing these proposals with Canadians in the coming weeks. But let me be clear, this is a new, reinvigorated Green Party, and you can expect bold, decisively progressive proposals from us. Thank you.
Yay. Thank you. And a lot of our shadow cabinet members couldn't make it in person, particularly those who are preparing for now what Doug Ford has in mind, an Ontario election. So I particularly want to single out our health critic who couldn't make it, Dr. Anne-Marie Zejlik. She is one of the pioneering physicians in Canada and certainly in Ontario on HIV/AIDS. She is the nominated candidate in Guelph. You'll certainly get to see more of her because she is, I think, quite likely to be the next member of Parliament from Guelph. Guelph is, of course, the home riding for the valiant and most effective opposition leader in Queen's Park, leader of the Green Party of Ontario, Mike Schreiner. So we like having double Green ridings. There are several across the country, and so at this moment I want to turn to Mike Morrice for his reflections on what didn't get done. The last time I gave a press conference, January 3rd, the world changed a lot for people in politics. On January 6th, c'est seulement une différence de 3 jours, mais il fait une grande différence avec la décision de M. Trudeau de son retraite et en même temps la course à la chefferie pour le Parti libéral. Mais maintenant, je donne la parole à mon cher collègue Mike Morrice.
Well, thank you, Elizabeth. Wonderful to see you all this morning and wonderful to be joined by Shadow Cabinet. As Elizabeth shared, while Parliament is prorogued, the Green Caucus is continuing to work on behalf of Canadians and on behalf of our communities to get results, notwithstanding those parliamentary tools that are not available to us. As one example, the disability community continues to call to guarantee that the Canada Disability Benefit will be delivered as this government promised in Budget 2024 by July 1st. That means they must finalize the regulations before March 7th to ensure that regardless of the partisan theatrics of the day, that the disability community deserves to see not only a fixed but a fully funded Canada Disability benefit. That's why Elizabeth and I wrote the minister responsible last week, calling for her to ensure that this government guarantees the Canada Disability benefit. We'll be meeting with her office later this afternoon to lift up the calls of the disability community, continuing, as I shared, to call to fix the Canada Disability benefit, and in the meantime, at the very least, to ensure that they guarantee that the meager version of the benefit previously announced is delivered regardless of the theatrics of the day. On this and so many others, whether it's related to the housing crisis, the climate, both Elizabeth and I are continuing to work on behalf of our communities, and will continue to do so until an election is called. Thank you.
And following on from what Mike has said, and I feel really guilty not introducing all of our wonderful Greens from across the country, but it would take too long. I know you understand, but we have candidates and critics here right across the board, just like Trudeau's cabinet. Well, I think we get along better. But anyway, I'm so proud of having people here from Prince Edward Island, Dr. Stratton, Gadfly Stratton Fisheries critic from Nova Scotia, all the way through to British Columbia. And my husband's going to run in what used to be Mission Matsqui Fraser Canyon, but it's been redistributed. But if I start introducing people, it'll take too long. I did want to say, apropos of Mike's comment, that we keep working. The day after House prorogued, I wrote to Justin Trudeau and all the other opposition party leaders, Pierre Poilievre and Yves-François Blanchet and Jagmeet Singh, and said, look, bills just died that we'd spent, the equivalent of millions of dollars of work, both within departments, by Parliament, by standing committees. A lot of these bills had gone through clause by clause amendments, bills that were so close to passage. For my community, Bill C-33 that would help us deal with freighters getting free parking in the Salish Sea and dragging anchors and threatening the survival of southern resident killer whales. If Bill C-33 could be singled out as having enough cross-party support to get passed quickly when the House resumes. C-71 to fix the lost citizenship issue. Ready to go. A lot of cross-party support could exist. I've asked the other party leaders to meet during this time that we have. We got to meet on December 3rd to talk about the Trump threat. Well, we should be meeting again. But in any case, no one's answered my letter yet, if anyone was wondering. All of that said, we do have an announcement to make, and you might have noticed, I'm very pleased to be joined once again. Et je donne la parole à mon cher collègue et ami, Jonathan Pedneault, un candidate au Québec, Parti vert du Canada. Jonathan.
Bravo. Merci, Elizabeth. Merci, Elizabeth. It's good to be back. It's good to be back with the amazing bunch of people behind me. They're top-notch, committed individuals fighting for a better Canada. And I couldn't be more humbled to stand here now with my friend Mike and with a mentor, a friend, this incredible national treasure that Elizabeth May is. I did leave politics, and now I'm back. And some of you might wonder why. Last year, early in the year, I did receive some fairly difficult, life-altering news about my health. Something that, as a 34-year-old, was somewhat difficult to reckon with. And even though I tried to keep going, at some point it became very clear to me that I needed to take a bit of a step back and reflect about my place, not only in the world and in politics, but also about how I could be slightly kinder to myself after 14, 15 years in conflict areas, some fairly difficult work. And so I took a step back. I needed that to reflect. In the fall of last year, I was lucky enough to be prompted, thrown back into the work that I did for many, many years in conflict areas, work that then led me in the fall and the winter of 2024 in places like Georgia and Syria, two places where people are fighting and have been fighting for democracy and freedom, two values that I think we oftentimes take for granted as Canadians, to core treasures that our founding fathers and mothers have been building in this country, to values that are now under threat. And that, of course, was with every single time passed in those places, always a bit of a reckoning about whether I was actually in the right place. Now, of course, the tragic, in fact, despicable election south of the border of a president that is assuaging fascism and creating right south of the border a threat to our way of living, to our values, meant that I simply couldn't stand on the sidelines anymore. The situation we're in is a situation I've seen many other peoples throughout the planet, from Venezuela to Cuba to Ukraine and other countries that are far less privileged or have been far less privileged than Canada has been. Those are situations that I'm well accustomed with, situations where populist leaders or threats from outside start to grow, and where independence, our way of life, comes under threat. These are difficult times to reckon with. And with 14 years spent in conflict areas, I thought that here was something that I could bring back to politics. As someone who's been to the front lines, as someone who's spent time speaking with people tortured, with mothers having lost their children, I do know what that reality looks like in practice, and it is one that we will, as Greens, do everything in our power to avoid. So I was extremely glad when the party reached out to me and asked me to come back to assume, pending a vote by the members, the position of co-leader for the Green Party of Canada. It's not a decision I take lightly, but the time's call on all of us to really stand up for Canada. And this is a responsibility that I will be assuming humbly, alongside every other Green throughout Canada, fighting to make sure that we protect the country, that we protect the people, and that we protect nature. En français, l'an dernier, puis pour être bien honnête, je ne m'attendais pas à être de retour en politique, mais l'an dernier, j'ai reçu des nouvelles qui étaient dévastatrices à l'endroit, à l'effet de ma situation de santé. Des nouvelles qui ont été difficiles à digérer pour un gars de 34 ans comme moi. Des nouvelles qui m'ont forcé à prendre un pas de recul pour réfléchir un peu à ma place en politique. Après 14 ans, presque 15 ans de travail en zone de conflit, c'était important pour moi de réfléchir à comment je pouvais continuer à contribuer tout en prenant soin de moi. Et donc, j'ai démissionné, comme vous le savez, l'an dernier. Et ma situation de santé s'est améliorée. Ça m'a permis de retourner travailler. J'ai eu cette chance, cette opportunité qui m'a été offerte de continuer à travailler dans d'autres zones de conflit. Ça m'a amené en Géorgie notamment et en Syrie récemment. Deux endroits où les gens se battent pour la démocratie, pour la liberté. Deux valeurs fondamentales que tellement de Canadiens, moi y compris, trop souvent prenons pour acquises. Et là, évidemment, quand il y a eu cette élection désastreuse aux États-Unis, quand il y a eu cette montée, ce retour d'un Donald Trump sur stéroïdes qui promet une forme de fascisme juste au sud de la frontière, qui menace les Canadiens, qui menace notre souveraineté, nos valeurs, c'était juste impossible pour moi de rester sur la touche. Il fallait que je trouve la manière la plus efficace de revenir, parce qu'après 14-15 ans à être sur les lignes de front, à rencontrer des mères, des parents qui ont perdu leurs enfants, à interviewer des victimes de torture, je sais ce que ça signifie, cette situation dans laquelle on se trouve présentement, puis c'est une situation qu'on va tout faire comme Verts pour éviter ici au Canada. Alors, quand le Parti vert m'a approché pour me demander de revenir assumer les fonctions de co-chef suivant une ratification des membres, c'était impossible pour moi de refuser. Ce n'est pas une décision que j'ai prise à la légère, ce n'est pas un moment léger dans l'histoire de notre pays, mais c'est un moment qui nous demande de nous unir pour protéger le pays, pour protéger les gens, pour protéger la nature. Puis les Verts seront absolument au front lors de la prochaine élection. Merci.
Et maintenant, nous sommes disponibles pour les questions en anglais ou en français. S'il vous plaît, identifiez la personne qui, si vous voulez quelqu'un seul qui va répondre ou sans direction. We'll make up our own minds and step forward, but open for questions. Thank you.
When you last resigned, you spoke about internal roadblocks in the way of you becoming co-leader. What happened to those roadblocks? Is it the people that have resigned? Were they the roadblocks? There's been several resignations on the federal council, the party's Green Fund. Were those people the issue in standing in the way?
There are always issues within every single party. Lots of people that are committed to various strong positions and visions, and that's something that we welcome in the Green Party of Canada, as opposed to something that we shy away from, as other parties often do. My resignation, as I said several times during the press conference, was for personal reasons. I am not going to use this opportunity right now to discuss my health situation more, but this is something that I will absolutely be doing in the weeks and months ahead.
S'il y avait des obstacles à l'époque, ces obstacles-là sont-ils encore présents?
On est absolument en route vers des élections. On est absolument focusé sur livrer une bonne performance électorale pour les Canadiens. Le Parti vert...
La question, en vous projetant vers l'avenir, ma question est s'il y avait des obstacles, quand vous avez démissionné, à ce que vous devenez co-chef, est-ce que ces obstacles-là sont maintenant disparus?
Les membres ont voté clairement lors d'une AGM en faveur de la co-chefferie. Il y a un support phénoménal au sein du parti envers ce modèle de gouvernance qu'Élisabeth et moi avons proposé lors de la course à la chefferie en 2022. Je suis de retour maintenant pour focusser sur l'avenir du Canada. C'est vraiment ce sur quoi on va mettre toutes nos énergies puis tout notre travail dans les mois, les semaines et les mois à venir.
I just add, there was the times that in the media, things that are for us as Greens normal, it takes time when you have a grassroots party and you work through, you have to have a general meeting. The members are the highest authority in our party. We couldn't decree there's co-leadership. It needed a meeting of members. We'd had a couple of meetings where simply ran out of time to deal with all the resolutions before us. So the meeting of members as planned, and as Jonathan said, with phenomenal support, happened in mid-November. And we are following the rules of the party. And I didn't ever say there were obstacles. I know people read that into it, wanted to make more out of it. And as Jonathan said, he repeated many times in a very emotional press conference, especially for me, because I really hated to see him leave. But it was personal reasons. And as Jonathan has explained, he'll give you more details on that as when the time's right.
Exact.
What do you think the impact of party infighting has been on the Green Party's successes in recent years? Has it affected electoral success?
Once again, the most important thing I can tell you today is that, as is evidenced by the people behind us, we are united and committed to delivering for Canadians at a time when there are no progressive alternatives out there. We will provide decisively, boldly progressive proposals for Canadians. I think Canadians struggle so much right now in their daily lives, in their daily, well, in the outcome when it comes to the climate emergency, our relationship with our neighbors to the south, with the cost of living situation. Those are the things that we are focused on, and those are the most important things for Greens right now.
Je ne sais pas si vous avez envie d'éviter toutes les questions, mais pour être clair, là, elle vous a posé, ma collègue, une question très simple. Est-ce que ces chicanes internes vous nuisent, oui ou non?
Les chicanes internes sont des histoires du passé.
Ouais.
Aujourd'hui, on est unis, puis on est absolument focusé sur... Pardon?
Elles vous nuisent, ces chicanes-là?
comme j'ai dit, ces chicanes sont du passé. Ces chicanes sont du passé.
In English?
On est unis. Les chicanes are from before. Yeah. No, I mean, once again, there are ups and downs in the lives of any single political party in this country. The Liberals went up, and then they went down, and now they're down, and God knows when they'll be up again. The Greens have been up, and they've been down, and now we're very, very up, and we'll keep going that way. And there's no looking back.
Can you speak about the process moving forward? As far as I know, you're not co-leader yet. What is exactly your role right now? And going into the next election, are you, Ms. May, the only leader? How is this?
The members will be voting on in the coming hours. I think an email will go out to members so that they can ratify the co-leadership question. And there will be further announcements in due time when it comes to the election, when it comes to our proposals. These are the things that will be focused on and happy to share at the right time when we have the answers.
Party's rules in order to implement this change?
No, the members have voted following a thorough debate.
As far as I'm concerned, I was told that it takes about 2 years for the co-leadership process to be fully complete. There is no...
Who's your source on that? Because that's not right. So we can talk later.
It is not possible for him to be officially made co-leader before an election 2 months from now. So
That's incorrect.
Yeah, that's incorrect. May I just say quickly, I really don't think Canadians are fascinated by the Green Party of Canada's Constitution and our internal process for ratification of decisions to change the Constitution. As it happens, we adopted the model, just to give you a quick summary, you can check it out. There are many Green parties around the world that have co-leadership, some that don't. We've picked the model of the Greens of England and Wales, which is that co-leadership is an option, and the members decide in each election. Ever since the Greens of England and Wales adopted co-leadership as an option, they've gone into every election with co-leaders. So that we think the model works well, but it remains very flexible in England and Wales, and we are very pleased with the progress. And I would really like to talk about the climate emergency, the poly-crisis world in which we find ourselves, and the failures of leadership in this country and the threats that are global. We are very committed to ensuring that there's a party and candidates who stand up really proudly and say, we stand on guard for thee. We are not going to be afraid of a bully in the White House. We are not going to cower. We are going to be urging, as we did when I met with all the other leaders December 3rd, that we really assemble as a unified country, as Team Canada. I know it sounds trite, but somebody's got to stand up and say, Trump wants us divided. We should not face him divided.
So what does that look like? Is that...
You spoke about internal processes. We are going to have the report, the org report tomorrow. Yes. So what do you expect on internal processes for all parties?
Well, I'm very proud I'm proud of the fact that the Green Party witnesses to the Hogue Inquiry helped the Commission understand some real politics. Like some of the initial ideas that were being floated were that parties should announce how many votes it took to win a nomination contest. And some of the people who actually testified, Robin Marty, who's here, who's our Director of Mobilizing, testified to the Commission and said, look, if you do that, you're just telling foreign state actors who may have malicious intent exactly how many people they need to bus in to swamp a nomination race. So we provided good advice to the Hogue Inquiry. I am disappointed, and I want to say this really clearly. I completely agree with Charlie Angus's complaints to Elections Canada. What are we going to do about Elon Musk and the efforts of social media oligarchs? Let's face it, at Trump's inauguration, billionaire oligarchs were on full display. We had Mark Zuckerberg, and we had Elon Musk. I appealed to the Hogue Inquiry when it was first being established to have intervener status to pursue the question of corporate foreign actors, non-state actors, corporations interfering in domestic affairs. And I'm afraid the Hogue Commission, and there were a number of others, by the way, who tried to get intervener status in the Commission to pursue the question of non-state actors, in other words, foreign corporations, whether big oil or the the digital giants out there that are menacing our journalism. In any case, I was denied intervener status. I will be going first thing tomorrow for the lockup, and I'll have comments afterwards. As you know, I did obtain top secret security clearance. I still am baffled that Mr. Poilievre is refusing to even apply for it. But in any case, I certainly hope whoever wins Liberal leadership will immediately ensure that Canadians know that they've gone through a review of whether they are compromised in any way, and ask Mr. Poilievre why he doesn't do the same.
Can you just help me understand? So this vote today that happens, then he's co-leader?
Well, it's not today.
Okay.
Today, all members are notified. You can't. We have thousands of members, and we like to give them an opportunity to actually have a ballot, consider it, then they have to vote. So the mechanics of it are we have required in our Constitution when the members assembled make a constitutional change, which they did at the special general meeting in November, that requires a ratification vote. The platform on which Jonathan and I ran back in 2022 and on which I was elected as leader, with Jonathan as my deputy, with this process that has taken a while, but that's what happens, to get the members assembled to consider a constitutional change to allow co-leadership. That has to be ratified. That will be ratified in, membership is very supportive. I don't want to presume what our members will decide because we're a grassroots Democratic Party. They will have the opportunity to support us as co-leaders while they also ratify what the members already decided in our general meeting. It's not really complicated, but the members will all be sent a ballot and they will all have their voices heard.
So will there be a specific vote on whether Mr. Pedneault should be co-leader, or will he be made co-leader just off of the mandate that you have from several years ago?
All members vote. The Green Party is a democratic grassroots party. We're the only party where members decide policy. We're the only party where the members, like the members of the Liberal Party, passed in their convention that they wanted a citizens' assembly on electoral reform. And then the party leadership said, well, that's not binding. When our members vote on policy, it is binding on us as leaders.
So how election ready is your party? Do you have all your candidates lined up? You still have to vote on your main platforms? Like what, given the snap election, do you have a
We will have a full slate of candidates. We have extremely exciting candidate announcements to be made in the future, but those often are, as in any party, up to the individual candidates to decide when they're ready to, in many cases, give up their day job because they've decided to become partisan and run for the Green Party. We are I feel very confident that we will be electing more Greens than we've ever elected before, and not just like for one region or one province. We'll be electing Green MPs from British Columbia, Ontario, Quebec, probably New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, and as I said, with the Ontario election first, probably with Ontario Greens as volunteers, we will do everything we can to support the Ontario Green Party as it goes into a snap election that is, again, showing the cynical politics of Doug Ford, who already has a majority, who doesn't need a mandate to stand up for people or buy a new ball cap. He can do that all on his own.
Est-ce que M. Trudeau, selon vous, Mme May, aurait la légitimité et la crédibilité de combler les 10 postes vacants au Sénat avant la fin de son mandat?
Je pense que oui, nous avons un système de démocratie de Westminster. Le Premier ministre a tous les pouvoirs d'un Premier ministre. Il reste avec le cabinet du Canada, par exemple, de mettre sur pied les réponses à tarifs de M. Trump. Et toutes les choses que M. Trump menaçait de Maison-Blanc. Nous avons un gouvernement en place. Nous ne sommes pas sans gouvernement. C'est clair qu'il y a beaucoup d'incertitudes. Et pour les Canadiens et Canadiennes, les Québécois et Québécoises, beaucoup de questions. Qui est maintenant le chef, qui est le leader du Canada dans les relations avec M. Trump? Mais le cabinet reste avec les pouvoirs et M. Trudeau, je pense que ses efforts pour les réformes du Sénat, c'est très important pour notre démocratie. Il est une des choses dans son bilan où je pense qu'il a fait un bon job avec un comité indépendant des partis, indépendant le bureau du Premier ministre. Dans notre Constitution, il n'a pas la chance, il n'a pas le choix. Il doit choisir les personnes pour le Sénat. Mais il y a maintenant une approche où les Canadiens, avec les valeurs de service, fait leur application d'entrer le Sénat, et je pense qu'il a toute la crédibilité de poursuivre ses efforts. Et c'est probablement avec un autre, si on peut imaginer M. Poilievre, je pense que nous recul à l'époque où les sénateurs sont les partisans comme Pamela Wallin ou Mike Duffy, les gens avec un niveau de célébrité pour lever les fonds. Je pense que les sénateurs indépendants dans cette époque sont, et j'ai travaillé avec beaucoup de sénateurs pour les législations, pour les projets de loi, et je pense qu'ils sont un groupe extraordinaire.
What do you make of some Liberal leadership candidates walking back on the carbon tax and the capital gains tax?
They should be ashamed.
And more than that, these are the people who say they'll stand up to Trump when they backtrack in the face of money thrown by the Conservative Party in attacking them. These are the people the Liberal Party wants us to think they'll actually stand up for Canadians when they can't even stand up for their own values and policies.
En français, ça? Pouvez-vous nous le répéter en français?
Ça, c'est les gens qui veulent nous faire croire qu'ils vont se tenir debout devant le président Trump quand ils ne sont même pas capables de se tenir droit dans leurs bottes pour défendre leur propre politique puis leur propre projet. Je pense qu'on a une question de leadership ici.
Under the Canada Elections Act, there can only be one person representing the party as leader. Who's it going to be?
Can I just say? We actually dealt with this really in detail in the platform that Jonathan and I ran on. We took a page out of the Green Party of Germany, where their co-leaders, there could only be one person standing to run for chancellor. So that person was not Robert Habeck. He stood back, and Annalena Baerbock. She's now the German foreign minister. She was the co-leader of the Green Party in Germany, and she stepped up to run for chancellor because only one person could. We have discussions to be had about which one of us. There's certain things we will still be, if the members approve it, yes, co-leaders into the next election. This was in our platform in the course à la chefferie en 2022. Nous avons resté avec un niveau d'engagement profond dans les positions de notre course à la chefferie, que nous sommes comme co-chefs, mais fait les décisions avec une décision de consensus, and the members will always be in charge of accepting or rejecting, putting forward proposals. They've been a very active membership through several more special general meetings and more general meetings than are usual to resolve questions. But in that instance, what Annalena Baerbock and Robert Habeck did as an example, they were both co-leaders through the whole German election. It's just that only Annalena was running for chancellor. We will, assuming the members, and I don't assume, members will decide. But if the members decide that Jonathan and I are the first co-leaders of the Green Party of Canada, we will be co-leaders throughout the election. But we will identify those places where only one person in a party can have that role. There are certain things under the Elections Act where the leader must sign. And I also think, although it's not a rule, because we'll be the first, assuming, again, which I don't assume, that this passes through the membership, this will be the first time that a major national political party is represented by two people. And in that instance, we will also assume, I assume, that the Commission on Leaders' Debates, which has already sent us the rules and how we participate, will not want to find out that on one day it might be Jonathan in a debate, and on the other day it might be me in a debate. We will identify which one of us fills the roles that must be singular, and for the rest it'll be joint.
Will will the membership vote before the election?
Of course.
Okay,
Of
so
course.
when? What would be the date of it?
You'll have more information from us next week about this. The members will have 7 days to vote on a digital ballot that they are receiving in the course of today, in the course of the next few hours. There will be more announcements to be made with regards to the results, with regards to the decision Elizabeth and I will take, assuming the members are comfortable with the idea, with respect to who's going to take up the roles that Elizabeth described just now.
I would also add, we're going to do it a lot faster than the Liberals tell Canadians who their leader is. We'll be having a result with the members voting that will be in well before March 9th.
Yeah.
You mentioned many provinces where the Greens hope to make some gains in the next election. If you have to, these are a lot of provinces. So if you have to pinpoint more strategically where the Greens are going to focus their energy, where is it going to be? Et Monsieur Pedneault, sur le Québec plus précisément, où pensez-vous que les Verts peuvent faire des gains?
J'ai dit encore la liste stratégique, toutes les provinces que j'ai déjà mentionnées. Strategic. We will be electing Green members of Parliament in the provinces I've mentioned. And in other provinces, we are very grateful for how many Greens will run hard to improve and prepare for future elections.
À Montréal, quelle circonscription?
Je pense que les Québécois et les Canadiens, de manière générale, présentement, cherchent une manière de se retrouver eux-mêmes, de revoir, puis réentendre, se faire dire qu'au fin fond de nous-mêmes, là, on est du bon monde, on est du monde optimiste, puis on est du monde qui regarde l'avenir en souriant. Et là, les options qui leur sont proposées par Pierre Poilievre, par, bon, peu importe ce que les libéraux choisiront, là, par M. Singh, elles ne sont peut-être pas nécessairement super attrayantes. C'est des options qu'on a entendues au cours des dernières années avec M. Poilievre, avec M. Bon, on verra qui les libéraux vont choisir, mais de toute façon, les libéraux, tu changes le glaçage, le gâteau reste quand même la même chose. Fait qu'au final, je pense que nous, ce qu'on va faire, là où on va travailler le plus fort, c'est rappeler aux Canadiens qu'un Canada différent est possible. Qu'on n'a pas besoin d'avoir des gens qui dorment dehors dans la rue à moins 20, qu'on n'a pas besoin d'avoir cette anxiété au fond de nous-mêmes à la fin de chaque mois parce qu'on ne sait pas si on va être capable de payer notre loyer. Les solutions, elles existent. Ce qui manque en politique présentement, c'est du courage. Et c'est ça qu'on va amener pendant l'élection. Puis je pense que les gens vont bien répondre à ça, au Québec comme partout dans le reste du pays.
Vous pouvez mentionner des circonscriptions spécifiques.
Il y aura des annonces en temps et lieu.
Okay.
Mr. Pedneault, how would you stand up to Trump then, and how could federal Greens rally Alberta on side to Team Canada?
Albertans are good, hardworking, loyal Canadians. So I don't know what you mean by rallying Alberta with the rest of the country. Well, who is Danielle Smith talking on behalf of? I mean, I think there's a lot of Albertans out there who are very unhappy with the way Danielle Smith goes down to Mar-a-Lago to, dine and wine with President Trump, someone who is actively threatening the sovereignty and the economic strength of our country. I think a lot of Albertans have serious questions about her leadership right now. For me, it is absolutely clear that Albertans they're Canadians. They love this country. They will fight for this country. They work already extremely hard for this country. And I don't see, I think what's lacking out here right now is a clear vision about who it is that we are as Canadians. And who we are as Canadians is a people that leaves nobody behind. Sadly, for the past 20, 30 years, politicians in this House of Commons have done just that. They've been leaving more and more people behind. And people are angry about it, and I absolutely understand it, and will be providing solutions to these problems because the nature of this country, once again, is one where we leave no one behind.
Jonathan, je peux ajouter quelques mots et après à Mike. One of the comparative advantages that Greens have that we don't talk about enough is that we are a global movement and a party. There are over 400 elected Green MPs around the world in countries that are also being threatened by Trump. Green MPs in Denmark, Green MPs throughout the European Union, and Greens in Ukraine. We are able to, and I think we need a global solidarity movement that stands up for democracy and against bullies in all kinds of ways, including defending the rights, human dignity, fighting poverty, and fighting a climate crisis that's galloping towards us. The advantage of being able to work, I'm meeting a little later today with a visiting member of parliament from Australia who's Green Party. There are Green Party coalitions and governments around the world. We want to pull together a global movement, and Canada, as a country, I want us as a country to stand up. We got a portrait back there, Lester B. Pearson, he's way over there. But Canada led the world in inventing peacekeeping. Canada can lead the world by learning again what Lloyd Axworthy used to talk about as soft power. We remember why Canada is still respected in the world. We're coasting on a reputation, but we need to stand up to bullies, and we need to say to the rest of the world and to countries that feel threatened and people who feel threatened, we're with you. And that's going to be important to say out loud and a lot, and I hope to encourage whoever forms government after the next election to be a stronger force in the world. Anyway, I promise Mike, you've got to get to the mic again here.
Just very briefly, Jonathan spoke about courage earlier. As Greens in this parliamentary session, we have brought forward that courage on behalf of Canadians to call out the corporate profiteering that has led to the affordability crisis that Canadians are in. And it may be the case that we may be the only party left who will continue to call out the fact that while the carbon price went up 2 cents a litre, it was the gouging of the oil and gas industry that went 18 cents a litre, from 26 up to 42 in 2002. And we will continue to call for measures like the UK has long had to have a windfall profit tax to return that excess profiteering to the pockets of Canadians who need it the most.
Can you actually speak to what specific responses you'd like to see, whether through retaliatory tariffs or non-tariff responses? Is there anything specific you want to see included?
Well, one thing I think doesn't help is when individual leaders, whether provincial premiers or opposition party leaders, freelance on what Canada's position is. I want to be part of an effort, but I would say that we support the dollar-for-dollar retaliatory tariff approach that's extremely targeted to try to protect Canada's economy. I also say that I'm planning to go to Washington and hope to meet with as many congressmen and senators as I can on February 6th at the invitation of a national institution in the United States called National Prayer Breakfast. So I got my invitation. I guess since I had my debut on Fox News, they didn't go through very carefully their invitation list. But anyway, I've accepted the invitation. I'll be February 6th in Washington, and hoping to meet with as many people in the administration, Democrat members of Congress and the House and Senate, and Republican members of House and Senate, to do my best. And I've shared, in that meeting we had December 3rd, where all opposition party leaders and the Prime Minister were sitting around the same table. So what I mean about not freelancing, we were looking at what are the opportunities that Team Canada has to influence American lawmakers. And I said, what about the prayer breakfast? You know, that's February 6th, we should all go. So a few of us are going. But in any case, it is sort of it has been going for like, I don't know, 60, 70 years as an institution in the U.S., and I want to do my very best to make sure that everyone I run into knows that Canadians are the best friends and neighbors Americans could ever hope to have. And for those who are feeling scared where you're living in the U.S. right now, consider moving here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.